Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and we need to figure out whether we're happy with tempering in Diablo 4 as it is, or not. Because as it stands, the community seems split. Meanwhile, this week we also got news of an upcoming Diablo 4 anniversary event, new Path of Exile 2 details, a new Helldivers 2 major order that made me say, what? And we'll cover some other gaming news highlights of the week. But starting with Diablo 4, Blizzard announced an anniversary event coming up for D4. We'll have some free cosmetics, extra goblins, and an XP boost. Specifically, from June 6th to 13th, we'll have the March of the Goblins. Blizzard says there will be increased treasure goblin activity, and it seems like they'll drop more loot than usual. Greed shrines will appear more often, and in dungeons, goblins will appear in pairs and sometimes in packs. Also, from June 6th to 12th, you can claim a free cosmetic gift in the shop, and you'll have until June 20th to claim all of these gifts. And I think what they mean is that you can claim one cosmetic per day from June 6th to 12th. Basically, a new free cosmetic to claim will appear every day. And I'm assuming as of June 12th, they'll be all unlocked and all be available until June 20th. That's how I interpret this. Then there's Diablo 4 Anniversary Part 2, which will last 10 days in total, and it's unclear when it begins. Possibly on June 6th, that would make sense. Either that or when the first part ends. I don't know, we'll see. But this is it's a Mother's Blessing event where everyone's going to get a 25% XP acquisition boost and also a 50% gold find boost. So that's the anniversary events, but we got more Diablo 4 to talk about as well. But first, a word from this video's sponsor, NordVPN. A VPN is an important tool for keeping your data secure and encrypted on the internet, and I don't dare connect to public Wi-Fi without first enabling my VPN. Whether I'm on my phone or laptop, in an airport or at a cafe, I turn on my protection before connecting to that public Wi-Fi, because you never know who may be snooping around trying to steal your personal data. Because that Wi-Fi network named Cafe Free Wi-Fi, yeah, that could be anyone using their phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot to trick you into connecting to them. Turn on your VPN. Now your data is getting encrypted before going out. You can also use a VPN to get around region block content by picking a server in a different country, and NordVPN has thousands of servers worldwide. And it's so user-friendly that you're basically just one click away from hiding your IP or browsing the web from a different country. And one account lets you connect up to 6 devices. Computers, phones, tablets, you name it. So, take control of your internet experience today with NordVPN. Right now, get an exclusive deal and 4 additional months when you use my link, nordvpn.com/Rhykker. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/RHYKKER, or click the link in the description below. Back to Diablo 4. Season 4 has continued to go on, and the sentiment towards it has continued to be overall very positive. It's not without any critique, of course, but certainly nothing enough for the tide to once again turn to D4 bad. Now, Nightmare Dungeons, that's an aspect of the game that can still be improved somehow. People still don't love having to grind out their glyphs in Nightmare Dungeons, but Nightmare Dungeons are definitely in a much better state than they have ever been, partially because it's faster than ever to level up your glyphs, and once they're maxed, you basically don't have to run Nightmare Dungeons anymore. Also partially because the events inside of the Nightmare Dungeons are immensely rewarding now for XP. And partially because they've gotten rid of some of the worst Nightmare Dungeon affixes that slow down gameplay, like the red light, green light, lightning dome minigame. Oh, and speaking of leveling glyphs, PSA, when you're done a Nightmare Dungeon and need to level your glyphs, you can just right-click on the glyph to apply the XP automatically. You don't have to go select the glyph and then click upgrade or whatever. Just spam right-click on the glyph to spend all the XP really fast. Saves you a bit of time. Something else that's in a better state than it's ever been, Obol gambling. Now that you can always get 925 gear once you're level 100, Obols went from something that was basically useless at endgame to actually super useful. Helltide Whispers are generally rewarding to do, and they combine 2 activities, so that always feels good. Though I do wish that once our Whispers were full and we were ready to turn in, we can just click one button to just port straight to the tree. Maybe like have the town portal automatically default to the Tree of Whispers once you're full. Just a small quality of life thing there. People do continue to complain about the one-shots in the pit, in particular from the Shades of Lilith. The issue is, though, with how scaling works in the pit, you will always eventually reach a point where getting hit by something will kill you in one shot. And it's not about something literally killing you in one shot no matter what. It's just that eventually the amount of damage something deals will be greater than the amount of health you have. It won't be a deliberate one-shot mechanic, it's just going to work out that way. And unless the devs implement some kind of mechanic in which damage that you take over your max life is somehow reduced or turned into, damage over time or something, one-shots will always become a problem in content like the Pit that is basically meant to scale up to being impossibly difficult to continue. So the complaint here isn't really about how much damage the one-shots do, it's more about the feeling like you have no counterplay. I think that's the problem people really have with the one-shots, is that they feel like they have no agency or not enough agency to stop themselves from being one-shot. And part of this is because some of the ground effects can be hard to read amidst the chaos. Maybe there can also be a bit more time between the telegraph and the damage itself to give a bit more player time for a reaction. I think what should not happen is a nerf to enemy damage to the point that players can just tank through everything while ignoring the mechanics. The Pit is meant to be the most difficult content in the game, and that means more than just gearing well. You can't just gear your way through and ignore mechanics. Player skill needs to come into effect. You gotta dodge things. Otherwise, where's the difficulty? Now, maybe these effects that are currently resulting in the one-shot deaths should instead apply a debuff, like the tormented bosses have, making you take more damage from all sources, so every time you fail to evade, you're punished by making the rest of the fight harder, until it becomes too difficult to survive, rather than just, the first time you fail to evade, instant failure. I think this would also help bridge the gap that players are feeling in the difficulty between the pre-boss encounters and the boss encounters. Especially at higher Pit levels, the experience largely feels like easy, summon boss portal, one-shot dead. I mean, at this point, you might as well just start the Pit run at the boss altogether. I don't really see people, failing before the boss. I've also seen some complaints that the Stygian stones are too rare, and that higher Pit levels aren't rewarding enough in general. And I'm not sure I agree that higher Pit levels should reward more item drops. They already give more masterworking materials, but maybe they should have a higher chance to drop Stygian stones, or if they already do that, maybe even more. That's one way to make them more rewarding without invalidating Helltide as the place to go for loot drops, because if farming high Pit levels is now rewarding as well for loot drops, well, then you have no more reason to do Helltide. One quality of life thing that needs to come to the Pit, it should remember what your last Pit level run was. Having to scroll back through the numbers every time is just tiring. Again, there's a number of simple quality of life things from D3 that haven't made their way to D4 yet. In D3, it would remember what your last Greater Rift level was. Then the biggest topic, the community continues to seem split on tempering. Some hate bricking, others want it to remain. And when we say bricking, we mean that you run out of tempering attempts without getting what you want. No, your item isn't technically a brick, it's still usable, but it's no longer worth investing into, and you will want to replace it as soon as possible, because tempering affixes can be really, really powerful and even necessary for your build. Bricking isn't a major thing for the categories that produce a useful result no matter what. Like, if you get armor, life, or dodge, hey, maybe it's not ideal that you got dodge, but it's still useful for you. But let's say you want vulnerable damage for your ranged rogue, and the 4 other options or the 3 other options are for melee skills, then yes, anything other than vulnerable results in a brick. And I'd say that most, or at least a big chunk, of the temper recipes do feel this way, where you either get the result that is good for your build or something useless for your build. This is exacerbated by the fact that you can roll the same affix multiple times in a row. If there was some system that prevented you from getting the same affix twice in a row, people might feel better about it. People would feel even better if, like with enchanting, you had the option to keep the affix you currently have. Because right now, only psychopaths will risk re-rolling just to get a higher roll of their current affix, because the alternative is, again, turning a good item into a brick. And the player base is split on wanting the ability to unbrick an item. That's the big contention point here. We're talking about something like a really rare resource, maybe a resplendent spark, right? It's already in the game. Maybe that could be used to reset your temper attempts. The idea is for it to be a cost high enough that you're only going to unbrick your best items. It would also mean that you have reason to hold on to a bricked item until such time as you farm up the required resource to unbrick it. But other people are saying that bricking makes the high of getting that perfectly tempered item all that much sweeter. That there's basically no highs without lows. But here's the thing. it would still suck to brick an item. It's still a low, even if it costs a Resplendent Spark to unbrick it. And a lot more people would be willing to risk re-rolling for a higher roll of the same Temporaphics if they knew that they could save the item with enough time and dedication. But bricking also seems to be keeping people hooked. In games that are basically sophisticated slot machines, players rarely know best what will keep them playing the game in the long run. If we get everything we want on day one, then there's nothing left to do, no hill left to climb, and we move on. So, I don't know. What do you folks think? I feel like I'm leaning towards something very rare to let us unbrick an item, or otherwise something done with tempering to make it a little bit less punitive. But I don't know, maybe that's going to make the game less fun in the long run. I'm not sure. What do you folks think? Should bricking remain as it is, or should there be some changes? And if so, what kind of changes would you like to see? Sound off in the comments. And speaking of keeping people hooked, greater affix drops seem to be in a pretty good place right now. Getting a legendary item with 3 greater affixes is very rare and seems to be in a good place of balance. You don't feel like you need to have a 3 greater affix item, but if and when you get one, it's exciting. Oh, one thing I see some people talking about, apparently some people feel that the horse in Season 4 is worse than the horse in Season 3. The suspicion is that the horse was reverted to a previous season state before it went through those improvements. And I'm not sure that I've noticed any difference myself. What about you folks? Has the horse gone back to being bad? Now, this week we had a small patch. We covered the patch notes last week. But one big thing they did was lower the gold cost of masterworking. Oh, and another PSA. If you salvage a masterworked item, you'll get refunded a portion of the masterworking materials. And this does not happen if you sell the item or if you just reset the masterwork. Similarly, don't sell gear that has gems in it, you'll lose the gem, and gems are really valuable this season. You're still looking for your perfect rubies, right? So you either want to remove the gem before selling the item, or you just salvage the item and you're going to get the gem back. One last PSA. If you're leveling an alt, check the Alchemist between levels 20 and 50, because he's going to sell caches that contain legendary items. They're pricey when it comes to gold, but hey, this is an alt, so you should be able to part with 200,000 gold. Now, some crazy stuff is happening in Helldivers 2. We have a new major order. The Terminate Super Colony on Meridia is just too big, so now we have to destroy the whole planet. And if you read between the lines, within the lore, we gotta turn the planet into a black hole. Yeah, we're making a black hole in relative proximity to Super Earth, using technology from the ancient advanced aliens known as the Illuminate. I'm sure nothing terrible will come of this. We succeeded on the previous major order to unlock the new mech suits, the dual cannon Emancipator exosuit. And while we were previously theory crafting bringing both mech suits with you on a mission to maximize your mech uptime and make the 10-minute call-in time less punishing, turns out, nope, big nope, devs will not allow it. You cannot bring both mechs with you on a mission, unless you're aware of the bug exploit to let it work, but that won't be around for long. Now, there's apparently a good reason why we can't have both mechs, and as per the code team lead, quote, the mechs require a lot of system resources, significantly more than other stratagems, to the point where we need to keep a cap on vehicles in general to avoid further problems with stability and performance. We want to uncap the number of mechs/vehicles, but more work is required on our end to make sure we can do that in a stable way. So, they want us to be able to, but game performance can't handle it for now. But another little tidbit that he let out there, vehicles. He said mechs/vehicles. We don't have any vehicles yet. Vehicles have been data mined in the past, but he's basically confirming that yes, vehicles are coming. Meanwhile, another week has come and gone and still no patch. Expectations continue to rise with every week, but it's important for the community to remember that the devs have not been calling the next patch the balance patch or the balance update. That is a term that the community started using. The devs actually came in and clarified that it would, in fact, be wrong. You would send out the wrong signals to call it the balance patch. They did say that there would be some balancing and some new stuff in the next patch. We also got the new CEO, Shams Georgiani, hop onto Reddit this week to introduce himself to the Helldivers 2 subreddit community. He engaged a ton in the comments and really comes across as a man of the people. He spoke about his background with CCO Pilstead when he was at Paradox, shared a video of the two of them from 12 years ago. Oh, look at those cute babies. I got a good feeling about Shams, and this will let Pilstead focus on the creative side of the business, which is great. And speaking of Pilstead, during a recent talk at the Nordic Game Conference, look at the glow up on this guy. He was discussing how to do live service right. And he reminded us of why we love him so much. He said stuff like, to be kind to your users, don't nickel and dime them, do what's right for gamers, not what's right for your bank account. He also revealed that Sony really was instrumental in making Helldivers 2 happen. The devs originally approached Sony in 2015 and said that they would launch Helldivers 2 by 2019. So Sony allowed them to basically double their timeline, which basically doubled their budget, since Sony did not cancel the project and allowed them to keep cooking. To find a publisher that would allow you to do this, it's almost unheard of. So, gotta give props to Sony when props are due. No, wait, never mind, we hate Sony again. They announced this week that they're releasing God of War Ragnarok on PC on September 19th, 2024, and it'll require a PSN account for a single-player game, meaning players in some regions where PSN is unavailable will not be able to play the game through legal means. We also got some exciting Path of Exile 2 news this week. We got the PS5 reveal for the game, which has come with an announcement of couch co-op coming to both console and PC, along with cross-play and cross-progression. They've also made a marketing change. They're calling the upcoming beta now Early Access, and it's going to be coming in late 2024. Meanwhile, on the Xbox side of things, we got this week confirmation of the rumor that Black Ops 6 will launch day one on Game Pass. And there's a lot of speculation that Xbox is gearing up to do a massive dump of the Activision Blizzard catalog onto Game Pass. See, there's currently a big sale going on for Activision Blizzard games, and this sale ends on June 8th, the day before the Xbox Games Showcase. Industry Gaming's Tom Henderson alleged that Xbox is gearing up for an announcement on its back catalog of Activision Blizzard games at the showcase, so wouldn't be too surprised at this point. Henderson also alleges that Doom: The Dark Ages will be revealed on June 9th at the Xbox Games Showcase. This correlates with The Verge's Tom Warren suggesting that a Doom game will be revealed at the showcase. Henderson says the game has been in development for at least 4 years under codename Year Zero and will feature a medieval-inspired world. If this is true, this sounds awesome, but medieval world Doom, isn't that just Quake? This week also saw the first trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds, which is looking to basically be a sequel to the excellent Monster Hunter World. Wilds releases in 2025 on PC and PS5. Then Destiny 2 had an interesting this week. They leaked the Final Shape expansion early. The DLC was made briefly available through PS5 streaming. Players were actually able to start the campaign, start playing the game, the expansion, take a look at the collection system to get info on raid mods, potentially gaining a competitive advantage over anyone who does not look at the leaks. Of course, Sony shut it all down pretty quickly, but for some, not soon enough. The Final Shape is set to release on June 4th, and if you're looking to jump into Destiny 2, Maxroll.gg is going to be launching a Destiny 2 branch where you'll be able to find all the guides you need. And that's going to wrap up this week's video, but do be sure to check out last week's video in which we discuss the secret amulet found in Diablo 4. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Special thanks to my supporters, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content.